Mayor of Wilmington says a Newsweek reporter lied to him before writing about his city. And is he running for re-election? His answer may surprise you. This is the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Mendte. Welcome to the Delaware Way. We are very proud to introduce to you Mayor Dennis Williams, the mayor of Wilmington. Thank you very much, sir, for being here.
You're welcome.
You were here on the week that Newsweek put out an article calling Wilmington Murder Town, USA. Your reaction?
Well, you know, Larry, people that write stories and write magazines, they're going to write it in their slant to sell magazines. When the reporter talked to me, that wasn't what the story was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about the homicide squad and the changes that we made to make Wilmington better. But of course, when I got the copy of the magazine article, it was totally slanted, and it was some folks in there saying some things that I was very shocked at them for making those statements and comments. I look at it like, you come and you ask me about a homicide squad. What are we doing to curtail the crime in the city of Wilmington? And then you talk about AKA murder capital. I don't think it was a fair shot, but again, you know, people do whatever they have to do to sell magazines.
Are you saying that the reporter misrepresented herself when she came to you?
I think she did. I mean, she said she was going to talk about poverty and other things that had caused a long-term problem in our city, but never did I think she was going to call us murder capital of the USA.
When your office, a spokesperson for your office, put out a reaction in a statement to the Newsweek article, they mentioned education and that there was a 60% dropout rate in the city. Where did you get that number?
Well, we got that number from the Department of Education. At one point, we had a 58%, and we knew it was increasing, and we started looking at the school districts across the board every year when kids started to graduate and who was dropping out. At 16 years old, if you're not willing to continue to stay in high school, you can sign yourself out. And we're looking at that, you know, the money that was on the table for dropout rate and prevention, a lot of that money wasn't being utilized. And it's quite obvious. You can see the young men and women standing on corners during the time when they're supposed to be in school. And I do believe during budget crunches, they didn't have the at-risk officer that would go out into the communities and find out why these kids weren't in school. But most of the schools, if you look at past September, when they get the funding for the child, and the child leaves in October or so, the funding is still there. But that child leaves the school. And if you look at what we're dealing with on the streets of our city with all these young people roaming around during school periods, and we're bringing them into the police station trying to find out what's going on, they don't go to school.
So it's a county school system, and it's basically run by the
school
state.
System.
Yeah, well, it's I mean, and they rate it by all the schools in the county is what I mean. But
okay.
You're right. But I was getting to the point that it's run by the state.
Yes.
Would you like to see that change?
Well, we can't afford a school district. What I would like to see the city of Wilmington have would be 2 of the school districts, probably Red Clay and Brandywine. And I would like to see the city of Wilmington have some say. We'd have some voting power. We'd have some say on what curriculum needs to be established for the kids in the city of Wilmington. I would definitely want a big part of that. But could we afford it? We could not afford a school system in the city of Wilmington. To put that on our taxpayers would be cumbersome.
All the things we're going to talk about are connected. All the things that we're going to talk about over the course of this show all lead into that crime rate. When you first ran, I know you're a police officer, and I know you ran to fight crime in the city, and you were going to bring the crime rate down. It hasn't gone down in that time. First of all, that has to be extremely concerning to you. And do you believe you're at the point now where you can say, yes, we have everything in place to help bring this crime rate down?
I think we are at a point where we're in place, but we have to wait until this next academy graduates where my manpower gets up. You know, I came in 22 officers short, 17 officers injured. So you take the 2 and put them together with 39 policemen down at this point. There was 22 policemen eliminated from the budget prior to me coming in. You had a crime spree which had been going on for quite some time. Long-term problems can't be fixed with short-term fixes. I made a mistake when I was running saying I can fix it in 6 months. You know, sometimes during the heat of the political debates, you say things that you regret. It's something that I regretted. But I talked about putting a cure violence team in effect when I became the mayor, which I've done. It's a team of people that go out on the street and do mediation. We've had 17 mediations done, and out of those 17 mediations, we know that if our people hadn't gone out and mediated with these folks, you probably would have had 17 additional shootings. Do we think things are working? Yes, we think things are working. But when you have a large area of unemployment, where people don't have jobs, the job training program, you keep giving people certificates and telling them, you know, that a boy and pat them on the back. It's not working anymore. A lot of people think that this major problem is all narcotics. It's not all narcotics. Some of these folks are robbing each other, sticking each other up. And this is what the retaliation, you shoot my friend, I shoot your friend. You rob me, I get you back if I don't die. And this mediation group we have goes into the emergency room, and we have clinical psychologists on board, and we talk to these folks and say, here you are. You know, you got a shot this time, you're still alive. The next time, if you survive, the shooting may be worse. You could be paralyzed. If you go back out and retaliate, your chances are you're going to go to prison.
When you make the statement that it's working, you can't base that on the crime statistics. Are you basing that on the fact that it would be worse if this didn't happen?
Oh, absolutely. If I can stop one kid from shooting another kid, I've won. That's one life.
There's no way to prove that.
Well, you say there's no way to prove that, but here's my theory. If my crime team goes out on the street, and you have, and I'm going to give you another quick example after I finish this. If they can talk people into not shooting each other, it works. We had a situation where I can't name the folks, where a young man went out. We had an issue. A couple of guys walked up behind this guy. One of our people in Cure Violence knew them and approached them and said, listen, you don't want to do that. And the guy that was getting ready to shoot this guy said, you were in prison with my grandfather. I'm not going to blow his cap off. That means the top of his head. He didn't shoot this guy because our people from Cure Violence knew him. Larry, that's a homicide right there that we just stopped.
But you can't show that in the numbers. And I think people always gravitate to the numbers.
Right.
And so you have, is there something in those numbers, aside from the example you just gave me, is there something in the numbers when it shows not only the homicide rate, but the violent crimes, which is, as the NewsWeek article pointed out, quadruple the national average. Are they somehow unfair? Are we not reading them properly?
They are unfair. That's based on the FBI statistics on the model of less than 100,000 people. If you look at the news and you look at Wilmington, Philadelphia has a lot more to talk about because it's so much bigger. You know, you talk about the Phillies, you talk about the Eagles, and it gets your mind off the homicides. But come on, 3 people shot in one day, 4 people shot the next hour in Philadelphia, people firebombing houses. That sounds like if I moved to this part of the country and I had that news on, it wouldn't sound like a city that's having crime. It would sound like a city that's under war.
Yeah, to your point, I was talking to a lieutenant, and I told your police chief this in the last show. I was talking to a lieutenant in New York, and I talked about the crime rate in Wilmington, the homicide rate. And he said, oh my goodness, how many murders? And I said, 27. And he said,
I know.
That's a bad Saturday for us in New York. So that is to your point that it's per capita. It doesn't diminish the problem, however.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But let me tell you what we're going to do. We are going to bring this down, but again, the jobs have to come into play. You know, we have a lot of people talking about what can I do for you? What can we do for the city of Wilmington? Help us create some jobs. Put some money into it. Put a real jobs program together. Why don't you give me money to rebuild the infrastructure in the city of Wilmington? I can put probably over 2,000 or 3,000 people to work. And I know when that happens, crime will go down. People need to be employed. And it's all over this nation. It's not just here. I go to the Conference of Mayors every year. And just like you just said a few moments ago, I was telling several guys about my problems from Cincinnati, Chicago. They almost ran me out of the room for this little problem that I have. I said, Dennis, come on, give me a break, man. What do you want us to feel sorry for you? Look, this is what we have. Look at ours. Right. And I really felt like about that tall after they started explaining their problems to me. But of course, it sells papers, it gets headlines. You know, Wilmington is so bad. Well, if Wilmington was so bad, why do we have most of the corporate giants in the nation that are incorporating here? Why do we still have all the banks coming here?
Well, stay on that point for 1 second, because you go to downtown Wilmington and you see these beautiful big buildings with banks on the side, and it seems pretty safe. So when we talk about, is it like most cities that when we talk about the problems with crime, it's in certain areas?
It is in certain areas, and you know, we did a downtown deployment plan for the business community, because without business and without people, you know, your city dies. But we're also in the communities. One of the plans that I have, that's another part, I'm getting ready to start opening up some community resource centers into the certain areas of the city. There's one we're working on now. We're just trying to find a location, especially in the Latino community, because I felt they were underserved when I was running for office. We have a person that we hired. He's a retired police officer. He has a lot of respect in the Latino community. I've known him since I was 11 years old. He's a retired police sergeant, Ramon Rodriguez, and he's going to do great things. He's already working there out of the community center on the west side. And these are the things that we need to do, where people trust people, where people can communicate with people, because without trust, you don't get anywhere, Larry.
I want to talk a little bit more about policing. I also want to get into those jobs you were just talking about after we take a quick break and we come back with Mayor Dennis Williams from Wilmington, Delaware.